Hello friends, welcome to Medicine Hub 101. Today we'll go through the topic from the normal physiology of the blood pressures. We'll talk about all the things. We'll talk about the systolic blood pressures, we'll talk about the diastolic blood pressures, we'll talk about the mechanisms, okay? All the related things like, okay, let's start today's topic is the blood pressure on physiology. So, this topic is physiology. We'll talk about only the physiology, not pathological. We'll upload the videos of pathology later. Okay. Now at first we need to know what is blood pressure, how the pressure is coming. Okay, from our school knowledge, from whenever we were in school at the time we learned that whenever the pressure that we just define the pressure that's equals to force upon area, right? So the pressure that's equals to what did you define before that the pressure equals to the force upon area. Okay. Now similarly, whenever the blood is going through the vessels, blood vessels, just like these things, let's suppose is the blood vessels. Okay. Okay. Now, whenever the blood is going or passing through the blood vessels, at the time we will see this blood will push, apply force on the surface area, on the area of the blood vessels. And we know these are what? Elastic in nature. These are also the elastic in nature. That's why they will just deflect like this. Okay. So we can say that the defining of the blood vessel, whenever the blood will pass through the blood vessels, at the time the blood that will just push or apply the force on the wall of the blood vessels. As we know, they are elastic in nature, that's why you can say they will applying up on top of the force. And what did you just define before also in your school time? That the pressure that's equals to can define the force upon area. The blood is also applying the force here in the particular area, that's why you can also the blood pressures. Okay. Now let's have a normal recap of the from the physiology of the heart. Now let's suppose it's not a the anatomical diagram. Let's a hypothetical diagram. Okay, I'm just taking this is the normal heart, and anyway. So let's suppose is the left atrium and left ventricle. I'll just draw the left atrium, left ventricle, and the aorta only this much. Okay, in the here. Then I'll try to understand you what's the thing going on here. Okay. Now let's suppose is the mitral valve. Now let's suppose. So whenever the blood is, let's suppose the mitral valve is closed, at the time there is like the ventricular contraction or systole of the ventricle. Whenever there is ventricular contraction, at that time we see the blood, the amount of the blood that is stored here, that will be pushed. At the time, okay, the aortic valve that will be opened, and the amount of the blood, this blood will be taken from here to here. Okay. Now, whenever the blood will go at the time, it will also apply the pressure on it on the walls of the blood vessel, aorta, all these things. So basically, you can define the blood pressure. Blood pressure is defined by that's the normal thing. That's first cardiac output multiply total peripheral resistance. The equation we all know it. And now we'll just discuss in details how all the things are coming and what are the factors that regulate these things, the cardiac output and the total peripheral resistance, all the things here. Okay. Now, if we talk about the cardiac output means we know it all that whenever the heart is pumping through the left ventricular pumping, at the time the per minute how much ml or how much ml of the blood is going out per minute. So ml per minute. Or we can write here the cardiac output that is defined by milliliter per minute. That means how much ml of the blood is just going through the or by the pumping of the right ventricle in 1 minute. That's the cardiac output. Okay, now there is a total peripheral resistance. Now let's first talk about the cardiac output, then we will go to the total peripheral resistance. Okay. Now let's see the cardiac output. That means how much or how many liters or you can ml of the blood is going through the left from the left ventricle to the outer and to the periphery per minute. So the cardiac output is also defined by two things, that is called the heart rate multiply stroke volume. Heart rate multiply stroke volume. Now first we will talk about the heart rate. Now let's see one thing, that heart rate it depends upon many things. Okay, let's suppose the heart rate may be higher and heart rate may be lower. Let's suppose when the heart rate is more, let's suppose when the sympathetic nervous system is activated more, at that time the heart rate will be more. We know it all. Okay, and whenever the sympathetic nervous system will be activated more, and let's suppose whenever the sympathetic nervous system will activate less, at the time the heart rate will be also less. Okay, this is a normal thing. And there are many certain type of the drugs which can also increase the heart rate, and there are certain types of the drugs that can decrease the heart rate here. Okay. Now, and also some things we have to know, such types of the hormones. Okay, let's suppose the hormones, some hormones like the T3, T4. Okay, this type of the hormones, they can also regulate the cardiac output here. Okay, and many types of the also ions, the ions like the cations, like the calcium, sodium, they can also regulate the heart rate here. Okay, now we will talk about the stroke volume. And heart rate, if the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, then the heart rate will be less. Okay, if the parasympathetic nervous system is increased, or the activity of the parasympathetic nervous system gets increased, then the heart rate that will be less. But if the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, then the heart rate that will be more here. Okay, the normal thing. Now we'll talk about the stroke volume. Now the stroke volume, that depends on three main factors. We need to have a very good concept regarding the stroke volume. The first point regarding the stroke volume, that is called the preload, and second one is the contractility, and the last one, that is the afterload. These are the very basic terms, and we should have the very basic concept regarding all the terms. Now first, if we talk about the preload, then we need to know what is preload and how the preload is defined. Okay, and what are the factors that regulate the preload. Now see, with the preload, that means before loading or before pumping. Okay, let's suppose this valve is also closed, this valve is also closed, that's the mitral valve closed and the aortic valve also closed, and during that time, not this one closed, let's suppose during the diastole of the left ventricle or the ventricular systems, we can say also, at the time there will be accumulation of blood, during the diastole it will relax at the time from the lungs, let's suppose from here the blood will come, the venous return, these things all from the when pulmonary veins, through the pulmonary veins the blood will come here, and from here to here all the bloods will come here, and before the contraction, before the ventricular contractions, we know that some amount of the bloods that will be accumulated here, and that will define the in terms of end diastolic volume. Okay, so in the diastole of the left ventricle, or you can say in the ventricular systems, the amount of the blood that is getting accumulated we have, so that's defined as the end diastolic volume. Now if the end diastolic volume is more, then the stroke volume will be also more. Now because why? Stroke volume means what? Stroke volume means how much ml of the blood is just passing or just going per beat. Okay. Now if the stroke volume is more, if the more amount of the blood is here, then of course through each beat or by each single beat, the amount of the blood that will be ejected, that will be more also. So we can also define the stroke volume, that is the ml per beat. Okay. So if the end diastolic volume is more, If the end diastolic volume is more, of course, then we can say also the systolic volume will be also more. If the end diastolic volume is less, then the systolic volume that will be also less here. Okay. Now the next point is the contractility. Now contractility, to understand the contractility, we need to have idea. Okay. Let's suppose I'm just drawing again, same thing here. Is that okay? Now contractility means how much the left ventricle is able to contract it. Okay. If it contracts too much, then squeezing too much, then more amount of the blood that will pass. That means the stroke volume will be more. That means what? If the contractility is proportional to, we can say, the stroke volume. If the contractility gets increased, then the stroke volume that will be also more here. Okay. But if the contractility gets down, then the stroke volume that will be also less. Another thing, how the contractility is regulated. That's the main point to know here. Same thing like the heart rate we just discussed about the sympathetic nervous system, like this thing. Now, if we just talk about like the sympathetic nervous system, if the sympathetic nervous system is activated, they need to release what? The epinephrine, norepinephrine. They will be activated, and we all know it. There in the heart, they are having what? Beta adrenergic receptors, and they will come here. After coming here, they will do what? They will just activate. They will help to do more contraction, and whenever the contraction will be more, at that time the stroke volume will be also more. Okay, so that's the thing. If the contractility gets more, then the stroke volume will also more here. Okay, and many other things like the hormonal things I just said also in case of the heart rate. If the hormones like the T3, triiodothyronine, tetrodotoxin, T4, also glucagon. Okay, these are also some of the factors which also increase the stroke volume. That means at first they will increase the contractility, and whenever the contractility will increase, definitely the heart rate, the stroke volume will also increase. Okay. And the last point that we have to know, that is the afterload. Okay. The last point that we have to know, that is the afterload. Okay. Now let's have a look of the afterload. Now afterload means what? We have to know that, let's suppose okay, whenever it is going to say, whenever there is like the about to be systole, whenever this systolic process is going to be started, at that time how much pressure does the left ventricle need to push the blood through the aorta? I am repeating again, afterload means what? Whenever the blood is getting accumulated in the preload, after preload we will see whenever the left ventricle will start systole, at that time it needs to apply some pressure to pull to push the blood outwards, to push the blood within the aorta. At that time how much pressure is required, that is defined by the afterload. Okay, now there are many factors which defines the afterload. Let's suppose if there is aortic stenosis, then the heart needs to apply more pressure to push the blood. Let's suppose in the blood vessels, if there is any plaque, okay, if there is like atherosclerosis or something like this. So what are the factors? First, the factors are like this here. What I just make the mention like these things here. If there is like the aortic stenosis, or if there is anything of the atherosclerosis, or if there is like the hypertensions, all the factors that will what? That will increase the pressure on the heart. That means if all the things are here, then the heart needs to apply more pressure to push the blood through the aorta. That means we can say this, all the things, they are increasing what? Afterload. And if the afterload is increased, then what? The stroke volume that will be decreased. Why? That's the reason. So you can say that afterload is proportional to 1 upon stroke volume. Okay. So whenever the afterload is increased, that means the heart needs to apply more pressure to push the blood. That's why the stroke volume that will be reduced. So if afterload increased, then the stroke volume that will be reduced. Okay. Why? More pressure, then it needs to more amount of the blood, but more amount of the blood can't be passed because all the things are flux. So here the hypertension is here, you know, and also the aortic stenosis is here. So more amount of the blood will not be able to pass. So we can say that whenever the afterload will be increased, at that time we can say that the stroke volume that will be decreased. Okay. Now let's have some basic or the unit things, measurement things, or what are the units of the all the things. We need to have a very little concept these things. Now, what did I just say now? That cardiac output that's equals to, I said, heart rate multiply stroke volume. Okay. Now see, heart rate means what? Heart rate means the beat per, or we can say per minute. And stroke volume is equals to what? Stroke volume equals to how much ml is going per beat. Okay. So heart rate equals to, what did I say? Heart rate equals to, I said that the beat per minute, and the stroke volume that's equals to ml per beat. Now we can consider about the beat from here. So we can say the cardiac output, for the cardiac output the unit should be supposed to be ml per minute. That's the thing. Okay. So ml per minute. So this is the unit for the cardiac output. Now we need to know the flow. What is flow? That's also very, very important thing regarding the blood pressures. Okay. Now see, flow is also on type of, it's equivalent to cardiac output flow. Okay. How much blood is passing through these things, all the things here. Okay. Now, what did I say? That cardiac output that's equals to ml per minute. Yeah. From the basic chemistry, we know that 1 ml equals to what? 1 centimeter cube. 1 ml equals to 1 centimeter cube. So you can write here also that cardiac output that's equals to centimeter cube per minute. Centimeter cube per minute here. Okay. Now we'll just we'll try to have a correlations with the cardiac output with the flow, all the things. To establish the concept, we should have the velocity concept here. Now velocity equals to what? We need to have an idea regarding the velocity. Velocity equals to flow by cross sectional area. We know it. Flow by cross sectional area I am representing in terms of A. Okay. Now velocity equals to, we all know it. That centimeter per minute. Centimeter per is the velocity. Now flow means what? What I just made a mention of the flow, that I just wrote it here like the flow equals to, I said that centimeter cube per minute. Now I can write it here that centimeter cube per minute. Now area equals to what? Area equals to only the centimeter square, we know. So we can write centimeter cube upon minute multiply 1 upon centimeter square. That will give us 1 centimeter cube will be more centimeter per minute. That's what we got here in terms of velocity. See, velocity here. So you can also define the velocity that's equals to the flow, or flow means already I just said that cardiac output like this, equivalent to cardiac output. So velocity that's equals to flow upon area, cross sectional area. Okay. So ultimately we can give the terms that V equals to F by A. V equals to F by A. So I just made the mention, concept that V equals to F by A. Wherever the V is velocity, you can define the V in terms of velocity, and F stands for, we just said, the flow, or it's like the cardiac output, or E for the cross sectional area. Okay. Now, if the flow is more, now we have to know, if the flow is more, of course the velocity will be more. Now we can see from these two equations, from these two terms, we can also define these two, that the V proportionals to F. V proportionals to F. That means what? If the flow is more, the velocity will be more. That means more velocity. If the velocity is more, then the flow will be also more there. That's the thing. If the velocity is less, then the flow will be also less here. Okay. Now regarding this concept, we will apply here. All the concept we will apply within this diagram. That's why I drew first. Okay. Otherwise it will take more time. And one more thing you have to know, that if the velocity is more, then the flow will be more. And I also wrote these things, that F proportional to 1 by A, because there is V. I'm just I'm comparing these two terms. So if the cross sectional area is more, the flow will be less. If the cross sectional area is more, then the flow will be less. That's why F proportional to 1 by A here. Okay, that's the thing. Now we'll just know how all the things are coming here. Now we'll try to have a curve. Where I want to put the velocity here and the flow here. And let's suppose this is the flow for the aorta. This is the aorta. Let's suppose the aorta. And let's suppose the flow of the medium arteries. The flow for the medium arteries and the small arteries, arterioles, and the capillaries at last. Capillaries is the arterioles. This is the small artery. This is the arteriole. Okay. And last one, this is the capillary. C for capillary. Okay. Now we'll see in this thing. See it here. What about the surface area? Very carefully see it. The surface area is how much? Surface area. And we need to talk about this surface area, we need to talk about this surface area, and not to talk about this surface area. Listen one thing, we have to consider all the capillaries together, okay? We have to consider all the capillaries together. It's not like this that we will just consider the surface area of a single capillary, not like this. Okay, we have to consider all the capillaries together here, okay? Now see all the these things. Now, if it is case number 1, case number 2, case number 3, case number 4, let's suppose. Then see, in case number 1, the surface area is less with compared to surface area of 2. That means what? We are getting the more surface area in the number 4. That means surface area of capillaries is maximum here. Okay. Now, and the surface area of aorta is the what? Smaller here. Okay. Now, what did I just make the mention? F equals to 1 upon A. Now, just tell me one thing, that if the area is more, then the velocity will be what? Less. That means what? With regarding this, all the concept, the velocity should be the minimum in case of the capillaries. The velocity should be minimum in case of the capillaries, and it's supposed to be. It is supposed to be there. Why? Let's just see one thing. Whenever the blood is going through these things, okay, at the time the blood is just carrying also the oxygen, the nutrients, all the things. So if the blood just passes through a very fast rate, at the time there will be no proper exchange, no proper nutrition, delivery, all the things. So no gases exchange will be there properly. As a result, the thing is here that the velocity in the capillary region should be the minimum. Otherwise, all the things that like the gases exchange, like the nutrient delivery will be not properly done there. Okay, that's the main point here. We need to know. Okay, so we can just talk like this: the velocity within the average minimum. Okay, see. Okay, just like this. So we can also say that whenever the velocity, within the aorta, what the the surface area is less. If the surface area is less, then the velocity will be what? More. You are getting my point or not? I am saying. I am saying that whenever it will be, or it is supposed to be less, but when I see something, then okay, let's do it here. Okay. Then it is coming like this. If the surface area is getting increased, so the velocity is also reduced. Here, the velocity is reduced, and at last the velocity will be reduced where? In case of the capillaries here, because the surface area is maximum there. Okay, and whenever the surface area will be more there, of course we know that the velocity will be less there. That's the thing we have to know here. Okay, now let's have the concept of the total peripheral resistance. It's a very, very important thing to know the total peripheral resistance. Okay. Now let's suppose, just assume there's the left, no. No. This is a left ventricle is full of with the blood, filled up with the blood. So now the contraction is going on. Oh no, there's the systolic contractions. Systolic. This is a systolic or systolic BP. Whenever the it is contracting, that's called the systolic blood pressures. Whenever the ventricle is contracting to push the blood outward. Now, whenever the blood is coming, let's suppose the aorta is open. Okay, the aorta is open, and the blood is coming out. And whenever the blood will just come, then it will be what? Divided into the various types of the arteries and the arterioles, all the things we know there. Now, what is total peripheral resistance? See one thing. Whenever the blood is coming, whenever the for the systolic pressure, we can say that the blood is coming out within the aorta, and from the aorta, let's suppose this is coming within the arterioles. These are the arterioles. And whenever the blood is coming within the arterioles, or within the arterioles, there's like the valve, but sphincters. These are the sphincters. Now, if the sphincters just dilate, then the amount of the blood that will pass very easily. You getting? If the sphincters dilate too much, then the blood will just pass from here to here. The other regions of total peripheral regions, it will be too fast. But if the if the sphincters of the arterioles, if they are like the vaso constricted, if these are constricted, then what? The pressure will be here more. The pressure here will be more. That's the thing. If there is a constriction, the resistance is more here. If there is vasodilation, the constriction is, the vasodilation means constriction, less constriction, more vasodilated, more space, so blood can pass easily. That's the thing. And total peripheral resistance, actually total peripheral resistance depends upon the, function of, we can say, function of sphincter of arteriole. Function of the sphincter of arteriole. If the arteriole is doing the constriction, arteriolar constriction, if the arterial constriction is there, then the peripheral resistance that will be more. Well, let me write it print properly for you. So the total peripheral resistance, if there is arteriolar vasoconstriction, so arteriolar vasoconstriction, If that is more, then the total peripheral resistance that will be also more. And if there is like arteriolar vasodilation, then the total peripheral resistance here is less. Okay, hope you got it the point. Now, what did I say? That BP, that's equals to, I just said that cardiac output multiplied total peripheral resistance. Now we can write the total peripheral resistance that's equals to cardiac output, that's equals to the, I'm writing blood pressure in terms of P, okay, and cardiac, yeah, okay, let me write it here like this. Let me just take the cardiac output here, that it will be easier to do the equations. So cardiac output that's equals to, that will be the blood pressure in terms of P and the total peripheral resistance. Now from here we can know that if the total peripheral resistance is more, then the cardiac output will be less. If the total peripheral resistance is less, then the cardiac output will be more. Okay, and this total peripheral resistance is depends upon the arterial vasoconstriction that is regulated by the sphincter of the arterioles. Okay, now if you want to know the total peripheral resistance, there is the equation of the Pongelly. Now the equation is very famous equation. The resistance, let me write it here. Okay, it depends. The equation is 8 eta L upon pi r to the power 4. 8 eta L by pi r to the power 4. Now from here we are just seeing some terms like the eta. Eta, that is known as the what? Viscosity. That means see one thing here, that this R or resistance, that is totally depend upon what? This R totally depend upon the eta. So we can write that R resistance proportional to eta or the viscosity. This is the viscosity. Now to have the concept regarding viscosity, just let's assume, okay, let me fix it here. Let's assume the blood is passing through it, through the vessels. Okay, is the normal like the laminar flow. Now see it here. This is the layer, this is the layer, this is the layer. All the layer blood vessels, bloodless. So bloodless. Now whenever in between them, if there is like any type of the constant, frictions or like these things, if the more amount of here, this is the figure one figure. Let's suppose another figure here. Here we are seeing like this, all the blood layers. Now from the two diagram, from the diagram number 1 and diagram number 2, it's quite possible to understand that in case of number 2, there are more blood layers, and if the more blood layers are here, then what? The viscosity will be more here. Okay, if the viscosity will be more here, that means the total peripheral resistance here will be more. Okay, so we can say that this eta may be more in case of the, you can say what? In polycythemia. In case of polycythemia, we know that there is more amount of the RBCs. So polycythemia, in case of polycythemia, there is more amount of the what? Blood level will be there, so definitely the resistance will be more. So we can say if the resistance is more, okay, then the cardiac output will be less here. Another thing, if there is dehydration, then also what? In case of the dehydration, we know that also that the blood will be more concentrated, that is more hemoconcentration, or you can write hemoconcentration, that will be more also. As a result, the total peripheral resistance will be more also here. Okay. Now, in case of where the eta is less, if the eta is here more, but where, let's suppose the hemolytic anemia. If there is hemolytic anemia or destruction of the RBC, in case of, we know that what? In case of it, the less blood, less blood, let's suppose the consider as the hemolytic anemia. H stands for hemolytic anemia. Okay. And if the hemolytic anemia is here, then the less blood will be here, so the less resistance because the less viscosity here. Okay, so cardiac output will be more here. Okay, this is the normal thing here. Okay. Now we'll talk about another factors. Hope you understood these things. Now another factor, what? The another factor that is here, that is the length. Now see, the resistance proportional to the eta, resistance proportional to the length. Okay, now we'll talk about the length. Now, how can we define the length? Now, a resistance proportional to length. Where the length will be more, where the length will be less. Just remember one thing: if the weight, if the weight is more, the length of the blood vessel is more. If the weight is less, then the length will be also less. Another factor you can say the height. If the height is more, the length of the blood vessel will be more. If the height is less, the length of the blood vessel will be also less. That we can define the EL here. Okay. The most important thing we are going to discuss, there's the relationship in between the resistance and the radius. That's the most important thing here. Okay. Now let's have a concept of these things. Now see one thing here. Now this R proportional to 1 upon R. That means we can write R proportional to 1 upon R. Now if the radius is less, try to understand. If the radius is less, then the resistance will be more. How can we define? Let's suppose there is a blood vessels, normal blood vessels. Okay. Now two cases we can get. In the first case, let's suppose the blood vessel is like this after a little bit, and these things. Okay. Now try to understand these things. If the sympathetic nervous system less activated, then there will be what? The vasodilation. And if there is vasodilation, then what will be the radius? If there is vasodilation, you see it here, radius will be more where? If there is activation of the sympathetic, if the sympathetic nervous system is less stimulated, then the radius will be more. As a result, we can see the vasodilation here. Okay. And similarly, another point, if the radius is less, here, there is what? The vasoconstriction, activation of the less, if the sympathetic nervous system is more activated. If the sympathetic nervous system is more activated, that leads to the vasoconstriction. And whenever the vasoconstriction is there, obviously from the figure, we can say easily the radius will be less. In this case, the radius will be less. In this case, that is leads to the vasoconstriction, the radius is also less. And if the radius is less, then the resistance will be what? More. And if the resistance is more, we just said before also, the cardiac output, that will be less. These are all of the factors with these things. Okay. Now within another videos, we will just talk about subsequently about all the things like the blood pressure. We'll talk about in another videos like the systolic, how to define the systolic blood pressure, how to define the diastolic blood pressure, how to define the mean arterial pressure, how to pulse pressure. We'll define all the things. And also we'll talk about in the subsequent videos all the laminar flow. Okay, we'll talk about the turbulent flow, all the things we'll talk about in the next videos. Okay, hope you understood. If you just understand, then do like and do let me know in the comment section if you just don't get any point. Okay, I'll try to help you there. Thank you so much for watching this video.